Welcome to Wesley Impact. I'm Keith Garner. How often do we hear about the down and outs? But have you ever spared a thought for the up and outs, the professionals? Well, thank you for joining us today and being part of the programme. Today we'll be looking at the second part of the Lifeline story, which began last week, focusing on how the work which was started by one of my predecessors, Alan Walker, in 1963, and has grown to become a national and international work, helping hundreds of thousands of people around the world every year. And I'll also be speaking with Peter Kaldor, who is from the City Bible Forum. Quite often we think of people who we might be able to help, or we even use phrases like the less fortunate. We can focus on those people who are living below the poverty line, and we do, the homeless and the marginalised. But at the same time, it's easy to overlook those who seem to have it all put together, all right on the outside, but who are facing some of the same challenges. It's just that we don't see it so easily. I'll be talking with Peter about what the City Bible Forum does, how it equips and meets the needs of Christians in the city, particularly in the business community, and also the needs of business people and executives who might have questions about the Christian faith and its relevance to their lives. Then we'll be joined by a regular on Wesley Impact TV, Joe Peacock, who'll sing Jesus We Love You, and I'll continue my explorations in the book of the prophet Jeremiah. Today, Jeremiah expresses his real and profound sense of hurt for the wounds of his people. The passage today shows that the prophet is able to cry out to God, asking him to listen to the cries of his people. Jeremiah is thoroughly heartbroken. He lived in a state of tension between his love for God and the situation of God's people. Now, Lifeline is a 24-hour emergency and crisis support line and can be contacted any time on 13 11 14 in Australia and other easy to remember numbers around the world. It began in 1963, and today Lifeline Australia receives an average of one call every minute of the day. It's in its 53rd year in Australia. Lifeline is now ingrained in public consciousness, yet it shouldn't be taken for granted. Here's a look at the second instalment of the Lifeline story.
In just 10 years of operation, Lifeline had become global. The Christian telephone service was now up and running in almost every capital city in the country and affiliated with more than 100 cities worldwide. The 1970s and 80s saw Lifeline expand to meet specialised caller demand. And our legacy lives on. Youthline, now Kids Helpline, responds to more than 6,000 calls a week. Ethnic Lifeline evolved into a state government initiative. And at Wesley Mission, our commitment to help people get out of debt continues, with specialised programs and ongoing one-to-one gambling and financial counselling support. We also continue to lead the way in suicide prevention and training through Wesley Life Force, and support family and friends left behind through annual suicide memorial services.
With suicide, people need the patient love of those around them to throw their arms around them and say, we're on this journey with you.
We're certainly making a difference. We know from the feedback from people who've attended our training, who have said that often not long after they've attended our training, they've been able to intervene with somebody who was perhaps suicidal because they recognised the signs and they were secure in the process, they knew what to do. I think it's an absolute privilege to be a part of Wesley Mission. I found that it's a genuine focus on everybody here to do all the good they can, all the time they can. And I think people really believe and live that.
Today, Lifeline has been established in 19 countries around the world. In Australia, Lifeline centres answered a record 141,450 calls in 2012, thanks to a dedicated team of 1,000 staff and 11,000 volunteers across 60 locations nationwide.
The volunteer is the heartbeat of Lifeline. When we interview them initially, or they fill in a form, it will be, I want to give back. A lot of people that stay at Lifeline are usually people who have been touched by suicide themselves, and they've been called to it. I'm just really, really grateful that Alan Walker did start Lifeline. If you watch any program on TV, any problems, it's phone Lifeline, and it's amazing that it's become such an integral part of our society.
Caring for a child with disability is more than a full-time job. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, non-stop caring. Sadly, without a break, this constant strain will take its toll. Help us give carers a break before they break down. Donate to Wesley Mission Disability Services before it's too late. Over the years of Wesley Impact, Keith Garner has had hundreds of conversations sharing stories of hope, resilience, love and the Christian faith. Perspectives on Faith and Sport is a collection of inspiring and insightful conversations with people who are champions in their field, including Commonwealth Games gold medalist Deb Lovely, tennis great Margaret Court, Olympic swimmer Elke Whalen, long distance runner Eloise Wellings, Olympic gold medalist Duncan Armstrong, and two-time boxing world champion Nigel Benn. Each conversation shares a unique perspective on sport and the achievements of notable sporting greats, and collectively presents a broad cross-section of athletes and how their faith has changed their lives. Perspectives on Faith and Sport is the second instalment of a 3-part series and is available now from Wesley Mission. To find out more, contact Wesley Mission on 02 9263 5555 or email impacttv@wesleymission.org.au.
So don't hesitate to be in touch if you'd like to find out more about the work of Wesley Mission or to contact me for any reason. The email address is impacttv@wesleymission.org.au and that general website, wesleymission.org.au. I always look forward to hearing from people and responding whenever we can. Joining us now is Peter Kaldor from the City Bible Forum. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you, Keith.
So what is the City Bible Forum?
The City Bible Forum is an organisation that seeks to serve workers who commute to the business districts of Australia. And we provide lots of opportunities for people to engage with life's bigger questions, in particular, really the God question.
So is that its main purpose for existence?
It is. We, on the one hand, support people who come from a Christian faith and who seek to live out their Christian faith in the workplace with all the pressures and challenges they face. And on the other hand, we want to create safe environments and places where people can engage with spiritual discussions and deal with the pressures of life in the workplace.
Because it is possible to belong to a local church and feel that nobody's really answering the questions that I've got in the workplace, which are to do with decisions and how you tackle it, the stresses and the impact upon people.
Absolutely. From the perspective of those who would be going to church, often they do feel quite lonely and not understood. And so I think they appreciate the opportunity to meet with others in the same profession or perhaps in other professions, and to think through questions like, how do I deal with temptations at work, and how do I deal with pressures or where I'm asked perhaps not to be ethical or not to tell the truth? How do I deal with those questions in the workplace?
And do you have examples in your own mind of people who would not have found it easy to talk about the God questions, who somehow through a friend are drawn into these groups and start to talk about it?
Many examples, wonderful examples. At the moment, I'd be sort of having those conversations with a good 15 or 20 men in the city, professionals sort of in their 30s to 50s, who have had a lot of experiences in life, and it's time now where they're re-evaluating and thinking, well, it's probably about time that I did think about God. And so one of the great things I enjoy doing is just looking at the text of one of the Gospels. We look a lot at John's Gospel, and out of that comes all sorts of questions where they're wondering, what is the purpose of life? Where is it heading?
Mm-hmm. So how are you involved in all of this?
How did I get involved?
Yes.
Well, I didn't grow up with it. I, in fact, didn't grow up with any kind of religion as such. I'm sort of half from a Jewish background, half from a Christian background. And it was really only when I was 22 that I started to seriously engage and ask questions myself and read the text. And it certainly wasn't an overnight experience. For me, it was a case of maybe 18 months inquiring and asking my questions before I came to the view that, yes, I think that Christ is the answer for me.
And you were involved in business yourself, I understand.
Yes, I went into merchant banking. Here in Australia, I was involved with what they call project finance. And then in Switzerland, I worked in acquisition finance, where I help one company buy another company.
And you married your wife in Switzerland.
I did indeed,
So
Bettina.
you came back to Australia, and then you felt this was something God was calling you to.
Well, yes, it was kind of a slow decision process, you could say. Maybe that's my nature. At work, I found that I was having all sorts of conversations, and people wanted to sound me out about matters of faith and life. And it came to the point where I really needed to decide, do I stay in my career, which I really enjoyed and loved, or do I embark in this direction? So I came back and did a theology degree, and then I teamed up with my good friend Craig, and for the last 17 years, I've been doing this around Australia.
So what really, very often as an evangelist, you know a pattern of how you present the gospel and the good news. What is the most, the question you most hear, without identifying it to anybody, but the question, the issue that is most knocking around in people's minds in your groups when they come from outside the church?
I think the basic question is, I think that I'm going to be good enough to impress God. So I create a resume. I'm told that, by my own family that I'm a nice guy. I do lots of nice things for charity. I might run in a marathon and make donations to good causes. And so we start to feel that we can self-justify. And I think it's to break down that understanding and to really, I guess, learn humility before God. I think that's one of the key challenges, which isn't easy for self-made business people, whether men or women.
And perhaps to loosen it a bit from the traditional shackles of some of the language that we use so that it really relates to people's experience.
Absolutely. And one thing I think you'd be aware, Keith, is that people in business aren't immune to life's problems. So it's not as if because they're wealthy or have status that they're immune to issues like substance abuse or children with problems of anxiety or parents with dementia. So when these problems hit, they raise basic questions, the same questions which really everyone asks. And then there's wonderful opportunities to think, well, how does God make a difference when life really hurts?
This happens in each capital city in Australia?
It does, yes. So we're really all down the eastern seaboard in Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, Perth. We're just starting up in Canberra, and God willing, next January we'll be starting up in Hobart. And
people can go on a website, can they, to find out where and how?
Absolutely, citybibleforum.org, find out all the information.
And for those who don't share the Christian faith, are the groups very heavily churchy? Or try to describe a meeting for me.
Yeah, okay. Well, I can describe this morning's meeting. So we have a man presenting about his own life, and the topic really was, how much can we really control in life? And in front of him were 30 business people, primarily in the finance industry. So they're used to taking control. And through illustrating it through authors like Malcolm Gladwell and his own experience and a few verses in the Bible, he showed how really there's very little that we can really control in life. And one of the big lessons in the Bible is that we really should preface things by saying, if it's the Lord's will, we will carry on business and go to this city or that.
Peter, thank you for taking time to share with us something of the importance of your, and we wish you well as you carry on, and may God bless you in that important ministry.
Thank you, Keith.
Please welcome now Joe Peacock, who'll join Craig Gower and the band to sing the popular song from Bethel, Jesus, We Love You.
All things have passed away, your love has stayed the same, your constant grace remains the cornerstone. Things that we thought were dead, breathing in life again. You cause your sun to shine on darkest nights. For all that you've done, we will pour out our love. This will be our anthem song. Jesus, we love you. Oh, how we love you. You are the one our hearts adore. The hopeless have found their hope. The orphans now have
It's been 200 years since the first Methodists met in Australia. To celebrate 2 centuries of faith and pioneering care, CEO and presenter Reverend Dr. Keith Garner takes us back to where it all began.
But we don't begin here at the heart of London. We begin in a town in the north of England.
In this fascinating narrative, Reverend Garner chronicles the history of the life and times of the founder of Methodism, John Wesley. This fresh and thought-provoking documentary takes us on a journey throughout the United Kingdom, beginning in John Wesley's hometown of Epworth.
John Wesley was born here on the 17th of June 1703.
This 1-hour DVD travels onto his education years and beginnings of social justice in Oxford, to his final years in London. For more information on John Wesley, the man and his mission, call 02 9263 5555 or email us at impacttv@wesleymission.org.au.
So here at Jeremiah chapter 8, well, verse 18 actually, running right through to the first verse of Jeremiah chapter 9, the prophet expresses his deep sense of hurt and suffering because of the situation of God's people. So let me read to you Jeremiah 8, 18 through to 22. You who are my comforter in sorrow, my heart is faint within me. Listen to the cry of my people from a land far away. Is the Lord not in Zion? Is her king no longer there? Why have they aroused my anger with their images, with their worthless foreign idols? The harvest is past, the summer has ended, and we are not saved. Since my people are crushed, I'm crushed. I mourn, and horror grips me. Is there no balm in Gilead? Is there no physician there? Why then is there no healing for the wound of my people? Now this is a particular kind of writing which entered into Old Testament worship. And Jeremiah is linked also to Lamentations in the Old Testament, and it's that word lament. It's a painful aspect of looking at how things are and how they've arisen. Some cultures are more attuned to lamenting than others. And there's a wonderful gospel song that develops from the message of 22. It begins about there being a balm in Gilead. Is there a balm in Gilead to heal the sin-sick soul? You see, the nation's malady has not been healed. And the area was well known for a balm that results from the styrax tree and was used for medicine. And Jeremiah is crying out and saying, is there nothing that can bring healing to my people? Jeremiah suffered with his people, not unlike many of those people who were crying out for healing in a real and powerful way. But there is a balm in Gilead. There is someone who can bring healing and purpose into people's lives. I would imagine that if you're one of those people that is asking questions about life and you don't know where to go, and you join one of these groups we've talked about earlier in our program, and there you hear for the very first time, the name of Jesus and what he has to bring to your life, you begin to understand there is somebody who can bring healing and purpose. You know, Jeremiah really felt for his people. There was something wonderful about the way that he had to deal with that. In chapter 9 and verse 1 we read, "Oh, that my head were a spring of water, and my eyes a fountain of tears. I would weep day and night for the slain of my people." You know, Jeremiah was known as the weeping prophet. He was a prophet who really felt there was a sensitivity about this man, a sensitivity that reached into people's lives, that reached into people's situation, and that reached into the pain and out of the pain of the nation. And he wept for them. He stood with them. And he knew what it was to cry out to God for them and alongside them. Now, as we've gone through the book of Jeremiah, and as we shall continue in subsequent weeks, we remind ourselves that here was a prophet that, as a young man who had been given a message he had to deliver, and to deliver it to a people at a time when things were tough, when things were not going easy for them. And there were times when he had to deliver a message of what is going to be that was not good news. It's wonderful that in the midst of all that, he may cry out about this balm that's needed, this healing that's needed, about a balm that would bring healing into their lives. That was certainly required for this people. Never in the story of Israel had there been more of a need for this balm to come in, this healing to come in, to make all the difference. When you go around a chemist or a pharmacist, you're often looking for the balm. If you've got a sore throat, you're looking for something that will make it feel a little better. If it's on your eyes, you're looking for something that might bring some healing and calm there. Well, for a nation, here the prophet is crying out, is there just something that can bring healing to this people? These people who are selfish in so many ways, who need healing, who need purpose. Well, there is, and there is purpose. And in our mixed up, confused Australia and world today, we too need to know that there is one who can bring real purpose into our lives, can redirect us, can set us on a new way, and can bring something that will help us to see things better, and help us to see ourselves better, and help us to find the answer, which is always in Jesus Christ. Jesus had a message to deliver to people. Sometimes it wasn't easy. He talked about a people that needed to know that healing. He told stories of the unlikely sources of God's grace. He brought healing into people's lives. And just as he knew what it was to put his healing spittle on the eyes of a blind man, or to touch a leper, or to reach out to someone in need, he knew that there was healing. And Jeremiah asks the question, is there a balm in Gilead? Well, we answer, yes, there is. And that healing is what we need, and it's what we've needed like never before as we reach out to him to bring healing to all his people.
If you would like to contact Keith and find out more about today's program, write to us at Wesley Mission, Post Office Box A5555, Sydney South 1235. Or you can send an email to impacttv@wesleymission.org.au. On our website, you can catch up on past episodes of Wesley Impact, find out more about our work, read online magazines and articles, and connect with us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. You can also connect to Keith's blog and stay up to date on all of the latest news and information from Wesley Mission. wesleymission.org.au.
Over 44% of households suffer from financial stress. Of those, 28% develop a diagnosed mental illness, and 10% experience domestic violence. Avoiding your finances makes it even worse, so Wesley Mission offers much-needed support to help families face their financial future stress-free. Donate today to help families face their future stress-free.
So please do visit our website to find out more of our work, watch past episodes, and keep up to date with the latest information from Wesley Mission. So that email address on the website is straightforward at impacttv@wesleymission.org.au, and the generic one, wesleymission.org.au. Hope you've enjoyed the conversation with Peter. The business community, as much as any other, is in need of hearing a relevant message about Jesus Christ. See you same time next week here on Wesley Impact.
Wesley Mission connects with more than 1,200 young people each year through Wesley Street Smart. To find out more, visit wesleymission.org.au.